Okay, your job is to look after creativity that is happening on Instagram, but let's start with your creativity first. What was your last Instagram story about?
My last Instagram story was a karaoke, which is a play on karaoke. But I love to sing songs under a theme and then do lots of filters and then make lots of cool things happen. It's because I want to share my passion for singing with other people, even though I'm a terrible singer.
Instagram stories, all the brands are really using them strongly since they were introduced last year. How did this format develop since then?
Well, I think it's really awesome that Instagram Stories has become such an amazing tool for a lot of brands. The brands are some of our earliest adopters, and they're using ephemerality in such interesting ways. They're thinking about using stories to highlight things. They're using stories to drive intrigue and to pull the audience in, and they're also using stories to teach people things as well. So when it comes to stories that are intriguing, it's about pulling people in and sharing an authentic moment with them, and it's also to give them a little bit so that they're pulled in. So if there's something that you want to, tease out, if you want to launch something, that's a great way of using it. If it's you want to highlight something, it's about getting a little bit more in the details. Is it a partnership that you want to highlight? Is there a message that you want to talk about? Is there a product feature that you're really passionate about communicating to your audience? That's another great way that you can use stories. And the last one is stories that teach. So how-tos, tutorials, education, like any more complex messaging, you can definitely use with stories in like little bite-sized clips. So those are the ways that brands are using stories, and it's really exciting to see the explosion of creativity of them using time, using ephemerality, and really getting deep in with the format.
What is it about ephemerality that drives creativity? Why is that?
Well, the format is 5 seconds for images, 15 seconds for video, and you can upload about up to 100 in succession, but once they're gone, because they only last for 24 hours. So they're not archived anywhere at all. And then you don't scroll like you scroll through the feed. You actually tap forward, you can tap backwards, you can pause. But what is so exciting about it is that, again, you never know when they're going to be gone forever. So it kind of makes like that moment a little bit more precious. It makes it more scarce. And I think that helps people and brands develop more intimate connections with their audience. Just because, again, it's just, again, that little bit of risk that you might not ever see this ever again. You're going to pay that extra special attention to that story.
Is there a certain set of rules that brands have to obey when they use Instagram stories?
No, absolutely not. There's no formula for creativity, particularly on stories, because, again, I think the format just lends itself to such creativity. We spoke about a couple of ways that brands can actually think about using stories for their marketing objectives, like using, again, stories to highlight, using stories to tease, and using stories to educate and teach. But those are just some of the ways. I think there's so many other ways that brands can, experiment with stories so to actually meet their marketing goals and objectives.
What would you say are the most important metrics to measure the success of an Instagram story?
I would definitely say, depending on how you set up your campaign for ads and stories, there's definitely ways to measure ad recall, brand lift, and as well to measure conversion as well. So those are just some ways. It's all about really thinking through what your marketing objective is, what your ad objective is, and then designing the creative and the story around that objective. So definitely there's ways to measure it. It just really depends on what you're trying to do.
Can Instagram stories also sell? I mean, they're 1 year in the market now. Do you see already brands having an uplift in sales?
Absolutely. There's tons of case studies that we have on our website that speaks to the efficacy of conversion, but it is very early days, and we're learning as much as we can about how we can actually help marketers connect with their audiences and to drive conversion. But again, tons of good success. We're very excited about what we're seeing so far, and we're excited to evolve the product as we continue to try to meet marketers' needs.
How will Instagram stories develop? What will we see? What can we expect in the future?
Well, we're going to continue to develop the format because obviously there's 250 million people that are using stories every single day. So there's an appetite for it. We're seeing people tell their stories in so many different creative ways. It's giving them more flexibility in storytelling. Like people are seeing from, anything from a dog's bad haircut to last night's bad karaoke, like the ones that I do. So they're using it in such interesting ways. And the funny thing is, like, brands are, again, also jumping on board. So we're going to continue to keep a pulse on what's happening. We're going to build around people, as we always do. And then we're going to respond to brand advertisers with their needs as it matches like what our community wants, to make sure we're building a best-in-class, world-class advertising platform.
Thank you, Kay.
Mm-hmm.